Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. We'll then run through the latest temperature observations as we are reaching 30 degrees in some areas in the east today. We'll then have a look at the short range models of the UKV, AROME and the WRF, as we could see some quite intense thunderstorms in the south and the east tonight into the early hours of Thursday. A lot of heavy rain and, as I said, some embedded thunderstorms within it. Could cause some disruption over the course of the night. And then we'll have a look at the mid to longer range, have a look at the GFS, ECMWF and the Ensembles, seeing what's going to be happening towards the end of this month and start of September as we head into meteorological autumn. Still got a lot of uncertainty with what is going to be happening, but we'll have a look at what the models are showing today for that sort of day 7 to day 14 range. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, links in the description. If we do start on the live radar, you can see we do have some heavy rain pushing in from the south and the west. Now, this is the cold front that is sweeping eastwards. To east of this cold front, it is very warm and humid today. Temperatures rising widely into the mid to high 20s. We'll have a look at the latest temperature observations around 2 p.m. as I'm recording this, and we'll be able to see what they're showing at the moment. But I do suspect around 3-4 p.m. by the time this video is being released, those temperatures will have risen to around 29 or 30 degrees. Now, that hot and humid air combined with this weather front tonight could spark some really quite intense thunderstorms in the south and east that we'll have a look at in a minute. Could be some real high rainfall totals. That looks like the biggest issue from this. Could be seeing 1 inch to 2 inches of rain along this line where we see this very heavy precipitation last a lot of the night. We don't have a weather warning issued for it, which I do think we should do, because it does look quite intense from what we're seeing from the models, but there is uncertainty in the exact positioning of it, and it is falling during the middle of the night. It looks like the heaviest precipitation will start around 10-11 p.m. and sort of dissipate by around sunrise, around 7-8 a.m. Or 6-7-8 a.m. So the impacts from it are likely to not be as high if it's all fell in the middle of the day. So I do suspect those two things, the uncertainty in the positioning and the timeline of it, does mean the Met Office hasn't issued a warning. But we could see that change this evening, so I'll update you on Twitter, so do check that out later this evening if we do see any changes to the warnings. But for the time being, we do have precipitation pushing into the south and west, and we have some repeated bouts of heavier precipitation through Wales, northwest England, into the Midlands, and northeast England as well, as this frontal wave is moving through. It hasn't been too intense, but it's just loads of bouts of precipitation. Now, this will slowly, as I said, move eastwards, engaging more with that hot, humid air, increased Cape values tonight, and that's where we could see those thunderstorms popping off. But elsewhere, it is pretty dry and not too bad. Now, if we do put on those temperatures around 2 p.m, you can see those temperatures are peaking in the east, widely mid to high 20s, if not touching 30 degrees. Of course, this evening, most likely London up towards Cambridge and Norwich, this sort of area across East Anglia and the south east. That's where we've got the hottest upper air temperatures and the driest conditions. Further westwards, it is cooler, and you can see behind that cold front much fresher and less humid air, much less oppressive. Now, the big thing about this air we have to our east is it is, as I said, very humid. It's originating from the North Atlantic, but also bringing in some hot air off Spain as well, those combining together quite hot, humid air mass. And what that does mean is, even though it is only 28 or 30 degrees, it is feeling quite a lot hotter than that. And of course, the humidity is going to spark those showers and storms tonight, and that large area of precipitation, which could drop, as I said, between 1 inch and 2 inches of rain across this area, this line that could be forming across southeast England up towards East Anglia. And we'll have a look at that in a little bit more detail in a second. Now, if you look at the today maximum temperatures, do refresh this briefly to get the 2 p.m. observations. Most of the 2 p.m. observations have come through, and we are widely 26 to 28 degrees, touching 28.6 in Heathrow, and Norwich has reached 29 degrees. And of course, the peak temperatures normally arrive around 3 or 4 p.m. So I'm expecting perhaps a couple of these weather stations to reach 30 degrees. I doubt 31. 31 is a possibility, at least earlier today it was, but looking at these latest observations, I doubt it will jump 2 degrees in the next hour or two. I suspect 30 degrees will be our peak temperature, maybe 30.5, so around a 31 possibly, but most likely in around that 30 degree mark, but widely mid to high 20s, very humid, hot feeling. Now, if you go to the UKV and have a look at that thunderstorm risk this evening. So if you start and we have a look at the temperatures around 3 p.m. as I'm recording this, you can see the precipitation pushing into the south and the west, heavy within it, and some heavy thundery showers breaking out across southern Wales and southwest England, but nothing too crazy. Now that precipitation moves northwards and eastwards and sort of dissipates as it does, and around 9-10 p.m. we see a few showers and storms popping off around East Anglia, Essex area towards Kent. Now that's just the beginning, I must reassure you of that. As we head through the evening, around midnight, at 1 a.m, we see these showers pop off more widely, and then a larger area of precipitation around 3-4 a.m. makes a landfall across the Isle of Wight towards Sussex, Surrey and Kent. Incredibly heavy precipitation there, around 6-7 a.m. So if you're up early tomorrow morning, around 6-7 a.m, could be horrible conditions out there. Torrential rain. If you look at those oranges there, that's rainfall rates of around 10 millimetres an hour, maybe 20 millimetres an hour there. So that's why 1 inch to 2 inches of rain is possible along the line where this most intense precipitation heads through. Now it heads northwards and eventually moves away around 10, 11, 12 p.m. or 10, 11 a.m, 12 p.m. So by late morning it clears East Anglia and the heavier precipitation sort of dissipates around 9, 10 a.m. And that's why I don't think there is a weather warning in force, because the heaviest precipitation is going to fall around that 6 to 9 a.m. point just before rush hour. Around 8, 9, 10 p.m. 10 a.m. sorry. So I do think it's the timing why we haven't seen a yellow warning put in force yet for this, but we could see one put in force as well later today. But I also think it's because of the positioning of this. You can see how that intense rainfall goes through Kent, perhaps East London, through Essex up towards East Anglia. But some models have shifted this further eastwards, some slightly further westwards. If this is slightly further eastwards, all this heavier precipitation will be clipping Kent, clipping Essex and clipping East Anglia, and most of this rain will be falling out in the North Sea. So that's why there is massive uncertainty with this. It's where this precipitation heads northwards. We're really only going to have a clue on its exact positioning, probably when it starts to arrive around midnight tonight, when those first thunderstorm cells and heavier precipitation starts to move in. But as I said, could dump a lot of precipitation in a short period of time. Over a few hours, could be seeing 1 inch or 2, could be flooding issues with that. Now beyond that, it's generally a dry day tomorrow, apart from that precipitation in the morning. There's a couple of showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, but nothing too crazy. And as we head into Friday, some precipitation around in the west, but again, nothing too crazy. Into Saturday, could see a few showers, maybe heavy showers across North East England, East Anglia, and some heavier precipitation pushing into Northern Ireland and Scotland. And beyond that, generally things are still pretty dry through Sunday and into Monday as well. Now, if you look at those temperatures at the surface, look at the 3 p.m. temperatures, you can see widely that 25, 26 to 30 degrees, peaking around Norwich. So pretty accurate to what we're seeing at the moment, where it is 29, potentially 30 degrees right by 3 p.m. in Norwich. Very warm, humid day, but to the west, high teens, low 20s, much, much cooler. As we head through to Thursday, that hotter air is swept away, but still temperatures could rise to the low 20s in some areas, maybe 21, 22, 23 degrees, maybe the isolated 24 or 25 across central southern England through Thursday. And into Friday, those temperatures could rise still into the low 20s, so not too bad, but nothing too crazy warm. And into Saturday, similarly, low to mid-20s as possible. So still warm into the weekend, but nothing crazy. Nothing into the high 20s, low 30s, and it is much less oppressive with the humidity down. And as we head into Sunday as well, could be even higher, maybe 26, 27 degrees as we start to track up some warm air from the south. But again, look at the relative humidity. It is much lower than what it is at the moment, where it's near 80, 90, or even 100% in some areas. That humidity making a big difference. And you can see the upper air temperatures very warm in the south and east. And we're seeing warm air mass potentially return by next Sunday, or Sunday into Monday. But it looks likely that it will be transient with low pressure pushing in off the Atlantic. Now, if you have a look at the AROME run and have a look what that is showing for Cape and the precipitation risk. Now, you can see around 3 p.m, very little Cape, some across southern Wales and southwest England. That's why a few heavy showers and storms could break out there, but they're most likely just be isolated. It's around 8 p.m. Cape starts to move into the southeast across Kent, so could see some showers and storms break out there, and around midnight it does push quite far westwards into the London area, Essex, Kent, and into East Anglia. Quite high Cape values for this time of night when, of course, we don't have the sun popping off these storms, so it could really pep up the precipitation, produce embedded thunderstorms and quite severe conditions. We'll have a lot of rainfall falling in that sort of 3 to 6 hour period, and eventually it does peter out and move across the east around 10-11 a.m, maybe midday, before it completely dissipates. Now, if you look at the precipitation from this, and you can see, as we head through, you can see precipitation in the south and west at the moment, and of course this evening, heavy thundery rain building up, really quite intense, especially towards Kent, Essex and East Anglia. Really quite intense conditions there, and again you see that line of heavier precipitation is slightly further eastwards than the UKV. Still widespread precipitation, but slightly further eastwards could mean that it is a little bit more eastwards, and more of that rain falls over the North Sea. Now, if you look at the accumulated precipitation from that, you can see very heavy precipitation falls again across East Anglia, London, and into parts of Kent, Essex. And you can see where these got these darker greens into oranges. That's widely 20, 30, 40 millimeters of rain. That's a good inch to maybe 2 inches of rain. A lot of rainfall falling in 3 to 6 hours across quite a large area. Again, it all depends exactly where that precipitation band does form and where those heaviest thunderstorms are. So it is something you need to keep an eye on. Again, its exact positioning will decide where we see the heaviest precipitation. But wherever it does form, there is going to be potentially some issues overnight, especially into rush hour in the morning through some areas in Essex, East Anglia, maybe London. I do suspect it will clear Kent by that time in the morning, but still could have residual issues from flooding. So you could go to bed tonight with it pretty much bone dry, not too bad, and you could wake up in the morning and there could be an inch or two of rain could have fallen while you've been sleeping. So could be some quite severe conditions this morning, so do take care. And if you are travelling tomorrow morning around 7, 8, 9 a.m, make sure you do take some contingency plans as well, because there could be some flooding issues on prone areas. So yeah, we'll have to see exactly what happens. Again, if the positioning is further eastwards and a lot of this precipitation falls over the North Sea, there won't be too much flooding issues and there'll be 10 to 20 millimetres of rain. But if the heaviest precipitation falls over land, suddenly a larger area could see that 25 to 50 millimetres. We could see even more issues. If you go to the WRF and see how that does compare on the Cape, again, you can see this evening the Cape widely comes inland, and again, around 2-3 a.m, we see this large area of Cape push in from the east. Now, it's not quite as intense in terms of Cape values as the AROME run, but it is still quite high and could still cause issues with thunderstorms. If you do have a look at the precipitation from this, again, over the course of this evening, initially nothing too much, eventually a few showers and some very heavy precipitation breaks out. The line of that intense precipitation is further westwards. It's through London into parts of North London, Cambridgeshire, into East Anglia. Intense precipitation there. Those orange colours, that is 10 to 15 millimetres an hour rainfall rates. That is really quite high. Again, falling for a few hours, suddenly we could see 20, 30, 40, 50 millimetres fall over the course of a few hours. Eventually it does clear away by around lunchtime. It's still lingering perhaps into the early afternoon, but the heaviest stuff moving away around 10, 11 a.m. If we do look at the accumulation of that precipitation, you can see, as we head towards tonight, you can see around the early hours that precipitation starts to fall really quite heavily, and it becomes really quite widespread. Again, you see this line of heavy precipitation falling, and that is only falling over the course of 3 to 6 hours. Again, it doesn't seem huge amounts for a few days, but over 3 to 6 hours, that's an intense amounts. And again, those lighter greens in the centre of that, and potentially getting towards oranges, that is 50, 60, 70 millimetres of rain. Over 2 to maybe even 3 inches of rain in that bullseye line where the heaviest showers and storms move through. So we're really going to have to keep an eye on this, but as I said, it could be really quite severe over the course of this evening into the early hours of the morning. So please do take contingency plans and extra care tomorrow morning. If we do now go over to look at the mid to longer range. If we go into the GFS, GM and ECMWF, now you can see low pressure pushing in at the moment, but eventually high pressure takes back control towards Friday and Saturday, and we just see generally a bit of an easterly flow. Again, initially we were seeing a bit of a northeasterly flow a few days ago, but it's more of an easterly flow here, so slightly warmer, not too bad. Look at those upper air temperatures, and you can see it is generally around maybe slightly above average, but eventually low pressure will push through with some slightly cooler air masses in the longer term. But today the GFS run definitely has higher pressure more in control, and we stay pretty warm around average to slightly above average all the way to 384 hours. All the low pressure and settled cooler air is going around us from the latest GFS. Again, this run looks like we could see some really fine weather into September, the first week of September, but we have seen from all the models over the last few days there is so much uncertainty that even just one GFS run could be anomalous. We can see a run later this evening that shows massive low pressure systems, and we're still seeing some quite stormy weather from other runs that we were seeing yesterday as well. So yes, this run is dominated by higher pressure, but it's not guaranteed by any means. And if you just look to the left of the screen, you can see potential ex-tropical system, a hurricane there moving into the North Atlantic, which could really spice things up as we head into September. So that is something we do also need to keep an eye on, and that is going to produce a lot of model volatility because how that interacts with the jet stream, not only that big low pressure system associated with the hurricane, but also the very hot air being pumped into the North Atlantic, colliding with the cold air that is now forming across Greenland and northern Canada, could really invigorate other low pressure systems and really power up the jet stream. So I have to keep an eye on that in the longer term. If we do go into the GM, see how that does compare. Again, low pressure pushing in at the moment, but high pressure dominating toward the weekend. Again, an easterly flow initially, but towards day 10, look what happens. Low pressure pushes in. That high pressure that we have over the top of us is sort of split. Some towards Scandinavia and Svalbard, other area of low pressure, Azores high down towards the North Atlantic. What does that mean? Cooler, fresher Atlantic air is pushing in with quite a severe low pressure system. Could be quite stormy across northern Scotland and widely cooler and more unsettled with the northwesterly winds. So this is why, although that GFS run looked quite idyllic and quite warm and dry, you can see by this GEM run from day 7 to day 10 suddenly goes a lot more unsettled and a lot cooler. And that's why we have a lot of uncertainty beyond day 7 at this stage. We just have to see how the models decipher it across the next couple of days. But for the time being, high pressure is building in over the course of the weekend into the early parts of next week, and the next 5 to 7 days looks pretty warm and dry. Nothing crazy hot, not as hot as today and not as humid as today, but temperatures, as we saw from the UKV at the start of the video, back into the mid-20s, maybe 26, 27 degrees is possible over the next 5 to 7 days. Beyond that, though, we could see low pressure running, or we could just see high pressure maintain its position in the longer term. If we do see the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, low pressure running in off the Atlantic, but high pressure does build in over the course of the weekend into next week. Initially an easterly flow, and as we head towards day 10, still high pressure in control, and it does extend itself over the top of us, and similar to the GFS, it goes really warm and dry. An easterly flow producing warmer air of the Atlantic, off the near continent, but we do have a little low pressure system centred to our south across the Bay of Biscay and France. You can see that from these lighter colours there. So yes, it could be generally high pressure dominated and more settled, especially in the north, and warmer, but with these little pesky lows developing, because the centre of the high is slightly further westwards and it's a bit more elongated, it could produce a lot of heavy showers and stormy weather and thunderstorms, in the south. So that is always something we need to keep an eye on. So 3 variable runs here. GFS really warm and dry, or at least warmer than average. GM going much more unsettled and cooler from the northwest, and the ECMWF going higher pressure building in, but little upper troughs still keeping unsettled conditions for some, with some showers and thunderstorms. So as you can see from day 7 to day 10, it is still all up in the air. It all depends on what is happening to the higher pressure. Where's this blocking going? And that will decide whether we see low pressure parts on top of us with unsettled stormy conditions, high pressure parts on top of us warm and dry, or high pressure dominating but still little pesky lows moving around giving us showers and storms. So we'll just have to see how it does develop. And after you finish the video, by having a look at the ensembles, you can still see there is a lot of scatter. Warm at the moment, turning cooler towards the weekend, but still around or above average. That's why mid-20s is still possible. As we head towards the last couple of days of August and next week, it does look likely temperatures will be above average again when that high pressure starts to build in that easterly flow. But there still is a lot of uncertainty, with some models bringing us back towards average or well below average for the first week of September, others keeping us around or above average. Just a lot of spread, a good 15-degree spread within the ensemble members here, from around 15 degrees at 850 HPA, high 20s, maybe 30 degrees, to around freezing at 850 HPA, which would give temperatures in the low to mid-teens for many. So we'll have to see how it does play out, of course. You can see, though, precipitation is fairly low, apart from the next day with that heavy rain in the south and the east for London. Precipitation is fairly low. There is spikes around early December into the first week of September. Into early September and the first week of September, but it is not particularly frequent and it is not particularly organised. So it is a little bit all over the place at the moment. But it is inevitable this time of year when we've got the colliding air masses, got other climate drivers starting to build in, the jet stream starting to power up, hurricanes starting to enter the North Atlantic. It is very volatile period of the year, so we'll just have to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. If you do look at the ECMWF and see how that does compare, look at the midnight run. Again, very similar. Warm at the moment, turning much cooler. Big precipitation spikes here. A lot of ensemble members producing at least half an inch, perhaps an inch of precipitation here. Again, they're low resolution, so they're not going to pick up on the intense thundery weather within the centre of this precipitation band, so that's why it's a little bit underdoing it, but it is showing heavy precipitation there. But beyond that, we are generally around average, maybe slightly above, slightly below average, all the way until early September. A lot of uncertainty here. Not particularly warm for the last couple of days of August, so definitely on the cooler side than the GFS ensembles. So still looks dry, still doesn't look too bad, but maybe a couple of degrees cooler from the ECMWF ensembles today. So we'll have to see how it does develop over the next couple of days and the next few weeks. As I said, a lot of volatility into September, but nothing too crazy is on the cards at this stage. Just have to see exactly where the high pressure blocking that is looking likely to dominate the North Atlantic and generally Europe over the next couple of weeks, where does it position itself and where does it push the low pressure systems? But as I said, we'll just have to see what happens. So anyway, make sure you stay safe this evening if you are in the east and the south with this heavier precipitation coming in. Make sure you take contingencies for tomorrow morning. If you are travelling somewhere, make sure you do maybe leave 10 to 15 minutes earlier, just to make sure if there are any disruption on the roads, you do have enough time to get where you need to go. So please do take care. And again, there could be a yellow warning put in force for this, so do keep up to date. Follow me on Twitter or the Met Office on Twitter, and that will be updated whenever they do think, or if they do think a yellow warning does need to be issued. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe out there this evening in those thunderstorms and those thundery outbreaks, and I'll see you again for another video soon.